This is the discussion video for Chapter 1, Paragraph 12 of 1984 by George Orwell. And I have chosen 4 vocabulary words or phrases to talk about in this paragraph. Those phrases and words are to command a position, shallow, alcove, and so far as something goes. We will start with to command a position. The word to command means to dominate, to control, to give orders. And probably commanding position started as a military term. Probably it meant somewhere high up where they could see everything and they could control the war from a high up position where they see everything. In paragraph 12, it starts off like this. For some reason, the telescreen in the living room was in an unusual position. Instead of being placed, as was normal, in the end wall where it could command the whole room, where it could be in charge of the whole room, where it could see everything. To be in a commanding position means to be in a dominant position, in a position where you can control everything. Let's talk about the next 2 words together. We have shallow and alcove. An alcove is a little area that goes in, or a space that goes in. If you can see in the picture behind me, there's an area where there are some pots on shelves. The wall, there's a little space where it goes in, and that's an alcove. And shallow is the opposite of deep. Most people know the word deep. That's a pretty common word, but it's a little bit less common to know its opposite, which is shallow. So a shallow alcove is a little place that goes in, but because it's shallow, it doesn't go very far in. So let's read that in context and see what we get. To one side of it, there was a shallow alcove in which Winston was now sitting, and which, when the flats were built, had probably been intended to hold bookshelves. Well, that almost looks like the picture that we just looked at, except instead of holding pots, it would hold books, and probably it was a little bit deeper. Otherwise, I don't see how Winston could fit into it. But I think the point here is that the telescreen couldn't see inside of that alcove. That was like a little hiding place in the apartment where Winston could be alone and not be observed by the party. This brings us to the expression, so far as something goes, which could be used in many different ways. But here, well, let's just read first and then we'll talk about what it means. To one side of it, there was a shallow alcove in which Winston was now sitting. Remember, an alcove is an area that goes in. When the flats were built, they had probably been intended to hold bookshelves. By sitting in the alcove, by sitting in that area that goes in, and keeping well back, Winston was able to remain outside the range of the telescreen. So far as sight went, so far as sight goes. Now remember, the telescreen can do 2 things. It can see what you're doing, but it can also hear what you're doing. And what so far as sight goes means here is that the telescreen could still observe other things. It just couldn't see you. Here's what we know so far. Winston leaves work early instead of having lunch, and he goes home. He sacrificed his lunch. He wanted to have lunch, but he didn't. He had something more important to do at home. And he went home, and we know he's not in a very good mood. He's not very happy. And he goes home and he takes out a notebook and a pen. And then he goes to a little secret hiding place where the telescreen can't see him. That's how far we are. So that's where we are right now, okay? And now it says, by sitting in the alcove and keeping well back, Winston was able to remain outside of the range of the telescreen so far as sight went. They could still hear. He could still be heard, of course, but so long as he stayed in his present position, he could not be seen. It was partly the unusual geography, the unusual shape of the room that had suggested to him the thing that he was about to do. All right, and that is the end of paragraph 12 of chapter 1 of 1984 by George Orwell. So now would be a good time to go back and listen again to this paragraph. Listen to the reading of this paragraph again. And then maybe even go over this video again and listen to some of the explanations and listen to some of the discussion again about the paragraph. Try to fully understand it before you continue. If you have to listen a couple more times, that's okay, right? All right, now we're done with paragraph 12, and it's time to move on to paragraph number 13. So, as usual, if you like this, if you enjoyed this, if you found this helpful, please press the like button. That really helps out my channel a lot. And if you feel like this is useful, subscribe to my channel because there's a lot more coming. Okay? So I will see you in paragraph 13 of chapter 1.